on, the person that I had to look up to was Dr. Jones, just like a father to me all my life. And I want to wish his families and the blessings of God and his comfort, and may he keep and hold you in the hollow of his hand and fold you in his sheet. And we all say, in the memory of Dr. Jones, God be with you until we meet again. And to all of the Galilee family, my deepest feelings and love to you. Reverend Dr. E. Edward Jones is gone on home to his reward, and one of these days the circle will be unbroken. Now, folks, on the day probably before they take him to his final resting place, his earthly remains, to his final resting place, I will probably give a memorial to him, his accomplishments. He was a true giant here in Shreveport, Louisiana. Father of many preachers, I being one of so many, and of course one that who he loved, and one who I'm sure he knew I loved him. So I'm about 3 months ago, him and Sister Leslie Jones, his wife. I just think the world of her. She was former Miss Grambling back in the I think it was I forget what year it was, but she was Miss Grambling. But just the same, God bless you and God keep you, Sister Jones, and the children and the grandchildren. Well, the world, regardless of what happens, does in fact continue to spin on its axis. And we here in America sometimes are caught up in things that take us off course, whether it be a death or whether it be something, well, maybe a family emergency or what have you. It takes us off focus of some of the things we should really be concerned about, and that is whether or not our future is safe, whether or not our future is safe. And what I mean by that is that we must understand that this little phrase that I say daily does in fact mean something important. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You must always watch what is going on with those who you have elected to public office. Now, thinking of that, I want to let you know this. Today, a federal appeals court determined that the Second Amendment does not give people the right to carry a concealed weapon, concealed guns, pistols, in public. The Ninth Circuit Court said that unless they can show good cause, that their livelihood, their lives, what have you, puts them in immediate danger. Now, what I said about being certain that we pay attention, we watch, we're vigilant about those who are in office. What's so important about that is the fact that there are people, and I've told you before, who are out there with a design to take away your guns. You be sure to get you one. I'm CL, and don't go anywhere. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and that mood that is affecting this country of nastiness. Be back in just a few minutes. TheCL, back with you on this Thursday evening in the USA. Yes, I was born in the USA, the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world had ever known. What would make Springsteen so much better is if he was not a raving liberal. But he is. Great musician, great poet, but a liberal still. That's okay. Born in the USA, one of his best work. And let me tell you that coming up in the show, Lisa May of the Republican Women will be with me. And also, later in the show, Marquise Young, founder of the Young Black Republican blog from North Carolina, will be here with me. And then, finally, in the show will be Steve Curtis. Steve Curtis will be with me as well. He is the Steve Curtis Show there in Denver, Colorado, where I am a regular guest. I'm on almost every month with them. I have a special day that I come on with them there in Denver. All three are going to be guests tonight, and of course we'll take your phone calls a little bit later on the show. 320-5335, 320-5335 will be the number to call. What I was saying about the Ninth Circuit Court, and this right at this point in time affects people in California. But as you know, that there has to be a starting place. And for a lot of craziness, for a lot of the silliness that goes on in our nation, California is a jump-off point. So today, in case you missed what I said before the break, today a federal appeals court determined that the Second Amendment does not give you, the citizen, the American citizen, the right to carry a concealed pistol, firearm, in public. And that's the Ninth Circuit Court. Unless you can show good cause of immediate danger. Just saying you want personal protection will not be good enough. Okay? That's what this particular ruling has been. Now, I have a feeling that they're going to try to kick this up to the Supreme Court. But now, folks in your various states, Louisiana, of course, we're okay here right now as far as personal carry and all that. I mean, concealed carry and all that is concerned. Just got my wife is waiting on her concealed carry permit to come. Let me tell you something. Right here in Louisiana, you can believe that they're looking at how they can tie your hands and invade your Second Amendment rights. This court has an agenda. Political activists, especially in this climate, this political climate, this 2016 political climate, they have an agenda to take your firearms, to seize them. And that is one of the things, and yeah, I know, and yes, I agree with so many people who say, well, the choices of presidential candidates in this cycle don't look promising. They do if you choose the right one, the one who is promising to uphold these Second Amendment rights. When you look out over the other two, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, who you know will go along with appeal courts like this, there is no choice in this matter. You have to turn out and vote for the person who's going to make certain that you won't have to fight this fight with the federal government, who, by the way, can't operate. They cannot operate without your money. Isn't it strange that a federal appeals court that operates with your money is able to tell you that the Second Amendment of your Constitution, our Constitution, does not give you the right to bear arms on your person? I have this question. Who are they to say that? I think it boils down to a states' rights matter. I think it boils down to that. And you are the people who have to make sure that it does. Okay, judge, rule on that. Now enforce it. It's going to boil down to the sheriffs that you put in office, the police officers that you put in office, the law enforcement that you put in office to enforce these laws. But here in Louisiana, who knows what we may get out of Baton Rouge? You don't know.
2 minutes.
You heard the promises. You heard all of the promises that were made in this last gubernatorial campaign. And I certainly hope that we get a chance to. I know the governor was on our air a little bit earlier, but I don't know. I can't. He won't. I don't know why he won't talk to me. I just want to talk. I just want to talk. Jay Darden was on yesterday. He came in and talked. I want to talk to the governor, and I just want to talk to him because everybody knows, of course, I wasn't for this governor, not for him now, but I would certainly like to talk to him because it would be a civil conversation. And I don't know, I'd just like to hear some of his answers to some of my questions. And I'm sure those questions that I would ask would reflect your questions quite possibly. So beware. Beware. And while you can
1 minute.
get the ammunition, while you can get the guns, go get them. Because they're coming after the ones you have, and they want to prohibit you for getting any that you don't have. I'm CL. I want to thank DavTac Custom Arms and Ammo, Lee DeVille, Bailey's Fine Jewelers, Holmes Honda European, Signature Cleaning Service, Subway, and Chevyland for sponsoring this segment of the C.L. Bryant Show. I am C.L. Bryant. We're going to be back right after this break with Lisa May.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If you got the money, honey, I've got the time. We'll go honky-tonkin' and we'll have a time.
Boy, 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 83 years old, Willie's still doing his thing. That's, boy, I tell you what, I can just see down in southern Louisiana and all over the Gulf Coast, folks boot scooting to Willie. Come tomorrow night, it will boot scooting will start. Folks, you know, I am a music aficionado, love it all. And that is one of the great troubadours of all time. Willie Nelson, you're listening to the C.L. Bryant Show. I am C.L. Bryant, and we are streaming live throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. That would be America, emanating from the jewel cities of the Arklatex, my hometown, Shreveport, Louisiana. Welcome aboard, our friends in southern Arkansas and East Texas. Joining me now via the telephone, Lisa May, who was first vice president of Nebraska Federation of Republican Women, and she is on the NFRW Public Relations Committee, Buffalo County Republican Party past member at large, and also a small business owner. And thank you so much, Lisa, for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. And this is what I really would like for us to talk about here today. There is definitely an evolution that is occurring in American politics. Both sides, well, actually three sides of this coin with Bernie Sanders in the mix. But what role now, because I know that Republican women forever have played such a cheerleading role in the process of politics in whatever state, county, or city that they were in. But I do see that there is now much more important and more visible role that Republican women must have in this country. How do you define and how do you see that role emerging here in 2016, Lisa?
Well, the Federation of Republican Women is the largest grassroots women's organization in the country with over 65,000 members. And in every election, the grassroots is what gets the people elected. And in this particular cycle, the part the women are going to have to play is getting people out there, registering to vote, getting the message out there. It's no longer that women are just at home and stay-at-home moms, and that's all they do. They are taking care of elderly parents. They are raising children. They have children in elementary school, grade school, high school, college. They're working a job, running a business. They take care of paying the bills. They're the majority, some of the largest wage earners in the country, more than men. They run large corporations. So we are able to cover a variety of people.
Yes, you are.
We can reach. And that is the message. We are not unrelatable anymore. We are out there and we are a force and we can get it done. We can relate to everybody, whether you're a mom, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a corporate person. We have a vast variety of people that we can relate to.
Women have become diversified, incredibly diversified in this country. Now, with that in mind, in lieu of Hillary Clinton becoming the presumptive nominee of the Democrat Party, does she, from your perspective, pose any particular or a special challenge to the Republican Party, whether we're women or men? What type of problem does she pose being the historical nominee that she is?
Well, from my perspective, I don't think personally that she poses a problem simply because she's a woman. If anybody remembers back, John McCain picked a woman as his vice president running mate. So we were on the cutting edge of having a woman run for
3 minutes.
a very high office and holding a lot of position, a lot of power right in the palm of her hand.
Yeah.
To vote for her simply because she's a woman is, in my opinion, I don't know why you'd do that.
I don't either, but you know what, Lisa? I didn't understand why people voted, and so many voted for Barack Obama just because he was black. That is probably the most ignorant thing you can do, in my opinion.
And that would be the challenge that Hillary will present, is they will vote for her just because she's a woman, and we want to be on the edge of history.
Yeah, that is actually not at all, as far as I'm concerned, intelligent for America to do. Nebraska politics out there. I have friends there in Nebraska, and I want to say to you that I've heard very good things about you. I want you to fight the good fight. Is there a website that people can go to and learn more about the NFRW?
Yes, it's nfrw.org.
nfrw.org, folks. And, you know, Lisa, I got to have you back when we can expand our conversation. There is so much, I believe, that is going to be available for us to talk about in the future, and especially as we go through this political cycle here in 2016. But I do want to thank you for being on with me today. And my producer, Michelle, will be back in touch. But I'd like to get you on here in a couple of weeks or a few weeks after, once the convention is approaching and once it begins, so we can do some analysis on that. Would you be game for that?
Wonderful. Let me know when, and I will be there.
Thank you so much. Lisa May, First Vice President of Nebraska Federation of Republican Women. We'll be talking to her very much in the future. Definitely need the perspective of women in America today. You've heard the expression, and folks, it is true. At least it still should be true. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. But in our society today, that hand has become diversified. You heard Lisa. You heard her say it. Women are now in the boardrooms. They are presidents of their own corporations. I'll be back in just a little bit. Don't you go anywhere.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is The C.L. Bryant Show.
Welcome back on this Thursday, gateway to the weekend. I am CL, and this is the CL Bryant Show. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us throughout the fruited plains of America. And joining me on the line now is a young man that I have met on a few occasions, on several occasions, and each time it has been my privilege to have met him. I was just with him up in North Carolina a few weeks back when George Holding was running for the office of Congress, United States Congress, there in North Carolina. And, of course, Holding has won that office, and I am very pleased and happy to welcome to the airwaves Marquise Young, founder of Young Black Republican blog from North Carolina. Marquise, welcome to the C.L. Bryant Show. How are you, brother?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Marquise, tell us, what was the catalyst, the genesis for you founding the Young Black Republican blog? What's that all about?
I think back in high school, which I first got involved in 2012, my liberal teachers actually made me get involved with politics overall. I was already making that transition from Democrat to Republican in the 10th grade, and then when Romney was running, and then my teachers were so liberal and they tried to brainwash us with everything. So I decided I was known as a kid that would fight back against teachers and their brainwashing and their their bias. So then I got involved and I became one of the top volunteers for Mitt Romney in North Carolina, which was the only swing state he won. Right. And so then I got involved politically. And I got on Twitter and Facebook and started getting some, finding new friendships and new people. And people said, you should start writing. And I started writing. And I came out with a good piece and I was on the Glenn Beck show. And the blog started booming. And I got 10,000 views in a week. And that I just stuck around with it.
The rest is history, as they say. Marquise, you say something very interesting about the brainwashing. What tipped you off that this may just be some type of programming that these, as you use the term, liberal teachers were planting in your cycle? Because I'm of a firm belief that the school system, the public school systems, you were in public school, right?
Yes.
I'm of a firm belief that the public school system does send home to American homes who have children in the public schools on a daily basis, kids who have been programmed without their parents' knowledge. What do you say to that? Is that what you felt was happening to you?
I would agree with that 100%. For me, a lot of my teachers were openly saying they were voting for Obama, openly saying, they were workers in the Democrat Party. And that was what really got me, was I already knew, like in the beginning of the year, they were already glowed about being a Democrat. So I said I was already looking forward to the bias. And I was a teacher assistant a few years ago, and I can tell you that it's not just brainwashing, it's also just pure ignorance. Just to find so many people. I was a civics teacher assistant, so I saw people who didn't know the Constitution. They thought Alaska was a country. They thought that Lincoln was a Democrat. Yeah. And there was just so much ignorance. And then people sit back and wonder, why can't we get millennials, the young people, as Republicans? Because they don't even know their basic history.
And one of the things that happens with us too, Marquise, is that Republicans, in many cases, fail to tell their own story. They allow the Democrats to hijack that story. Now, at your age, what are you, 20, 21 now?
I'm 20.
You're 20. Kids at your age, now, give us an idea of what is it like to be black, 20, and Republican in your crowd, in your age bracket? What that may or may not be a very easy row to hoe.
Especially with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's getting even harder because now they're just actively looking for people to agitate and people who disagree with the silence, people who disagree with them. I've been through a lot of attacks. I mean, I didn't like Obama since '08, and I was very young then. So I was called, white boy,
Yeah.
Oreo, and the race trader.
Yeah.
They're calling a 12-year-old a race trader, and it was just ridiculous.
You were a 12-year-old race trader.
Yeah, apparently, the 12-year-old Uncle Tom, who,
Man.
I was just the enemy, a 12-year-old enemy.
Oh,
And
man.
just because not just because I was against them, but just because I asked
Questions.
what was the change.
You couldn't even ask the question
What
about
the change
it.
was. No, I couldn't ask what the hope was, what I'm supposed to be hoping and changing about. And it was just, it was kind of scary. That's what really got me to turn Republican, was to seeing, the worship of Obama. And it was like very robotic, and it was just scary for me. And that's what really said, you know what, let me look at something else.
And you know what? Of course, knowing you, I know that you're an incredibly intelligent young man and very insightful young man. But what is really appealing to me is that you use this word robotic. And when you are programmed, that is exactly what happens, is that you do things in a reactionary way to the way the program should work. And once you find somebody who is not in the program, somebody who is outside of the program, then that programming also teaches you to go after them, to cause them as much discomfort, even pain, that you can possibly cause. We're going to come back with Marquise Young on the other side of the break. And I got to tell you, Marquise, I do admire your courage. It has to be many a sling and arrow that you have survived, and many more to come. I want to ask you when we come back about the emotionalism that swept the president into office. Will that same emotionalism be available to Hillary Clinton? This is a question that I'm going to be asking as this election cycle go on, because one of the concerns that I have is that the historical moment is once again before us. When Obama ran, it was the historical moment of electing the first black president. Now it is presenting itself again, the historical moment of electing the first woman president. My question is, where does common sense emerge in this last 8 years? Will it emerge? Can we count on Americans to be vigilant? Or will they be, as Marquise found, to be programmed? I'm CL. We'll be back in just a few minutes. CL. Back with you on this Thursday evening, emanating from the jewel cities of the Arklatex, my hometown, Shreveport and Bossier City. And we are talking to a young man who I have incredible respect for, and I do believe that you need to remember this name. His name is Marquise Young. He's from North Carolina, founder of the Young Black Republican blog. I've had a chance to eat with him, work with him, and have a chance to talk to him. Great guy to get to know. Be sure to go to that blog. Marquise, is there a website or a Twitter page that, or a Twitter account that we need to know about?
Sure. My Twitter handle is Young BLK Repub, Young BLK REPUB, and my blog is youngblackrepublic.wordpress.com.
Check it out. Folks, go check it out. And be sure to see what is going on in the minds of young Republicans. Because I know this. I know that Marquise is telling the story of the Republic and the Republican Party in the way that the adults, you and me, have stopped telling it. And therefore, as he said, we are facing an electorate of young people who think that Bernie Sanders is the answer or Hillary Clinton is the answer, when the things that have made us great are conservative principles. Now, Marquise, I was going to ask you when we went to break this question: do you think that the emotionalism of the historical moment that's facing Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton is enjoying at this point in time, will equal that of Barack Obama? Do you think that that is a concern for the country at this point in time?
I do believe that there is a great potential of it happening. I think that she's starting to hit a little bit of a stride. The media is definitely starting to, I can't think of another word than worship her right now. If you just look at the headlines like I do, I just look at the headlines from week to week to see how they change, and you'll see the media kind of criticizing Hillary for her, lack of being a good speaker and orator. And then you look at the next week, they're worshiping her for Clinton nomination. Because now they can't attack. Now they don't have to attack her. Now that she's Clinton. And I think that it could happen. I have full faith that something's about to come out on her that's going to hurt her really bad in the polls. I know people call me a conspiracy theorist, but I just think that something's going to come out on her. Maybe people are thinking of an indictment. I'm thinking something along those lines that's going to really hurt her in the polls, and the Democrats have to make a decision.
I got to tell you something, Marquise. Today, with the boss of the FBI, Barack Hussein Obama, coming out and endorsing Hillary Clinton, and Harry Reid, who is the Senate Minority Leader, coming out and basically having a meeting with Bernie Sanders, and then Joe Biden having a meeting with Bernie Sanders. I can pretty much assure you Hillary Clinton will not be indicted. The president would not have gone to that length like he did. I think he did a 90-second endorsement on video endorsement. He would not have gone to that length if there was an imminent indictment of Hillary Clinton. Let me ask you this about Donald Trump. Young people like yourself, what are you hearing? What's word on the street about Donald Trump among young people? How are they viewing him?
I'm going to be real about it. I don't think I think he is not really doing very well with young people. The way the mood that there is in America now, you literally will have millennials who are voting against Trump and for Hillary just because she's nice and he's mean.
So that's what it's going to boil down to. She's nice. She's mommy. He's daddy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness! I hadn't heard it quite put like that.
That's basically what I'm seeing, and the mood that we're in. A lot of millennials are just want to be cradled, and Hillary has that perfect grandmotherly, come to mama's campaign type thing,
Wow.
and Trump is just the evil guy. Yeah, I think we have time to switch it around, but I do think that depending on what happens in the rest of the primary with Bernie, which me and you both believe that he's just going to go ahead and fade away.
Yeah, he's gonna be in the woodwork here pretty
We
soon.
don't know what his supporters might do.
In fact, I'm thinking. Well, you know what? Some of his supporters said that they would definitely vote for Trump, but I just don't see how they make that leap from a socialist to a Republican candidate. I just don't see how that leap is made unless they see something in Trump that I don't. But I'm hoping that Trump does stay the course, and he's all we got. He's what we got. There's nobody that can parachute in now without destroying the Republican Party,
Nope.
and so he's what we got. So that's what we're going to work with. Marquise, I want to thank you for being on with me. Give your blog and Twitter handles again so that folks, I want to encourage you, go here, check out this young man's mind and see what he's all about. Go ahead and give it out again.
Twitter is young BLKREPUB, and my blog is youngblackrepublic.wordpress.com.
Thank you so much for being on, man. And hey, listen, we'll definitely have you on again. I'll have Michelle in touch with you. And God bless and God keep you. Fight the good fight, as I know that you will, because you are. Marquise Young, folks, he is out there fighting the fight. Now, there is something that he brought up here that as we close out this particular segment, and coming up with Steve Curtis here in just a couple of blocks. What if the young voters are looking at it like she's nice and he's not? I hope that doesn't take place. I hope she is not mommy, and Trump is looked at as the father figure, and that the enforcer, because that would be disastrous. These are interesting times in not a good way, because we're going to have to deal with some things. There are some choices that we are going to have to make, and those choices are our principles, and those principles have to supersede emotions. Americans, whoever you are, Democrat or Republican, we have made this emotional mistake before. It did not net us anything. Black people in particular, you got to look at where you were 8 years ago and where you are now. America, you have to look at where you were 8 years ago and where you are now. The hope and change thing, as Sarah Palin said, that didn't work out for you too good. I'm CL. Be back in just a few minutes. CL back with you on this Thursday evening, and that does seem to be the state of America, dazed and confused. Let me tell you about this age of and the mood of just nastiness that is going on in this country right now. Of course, there is, the name calling and all of that. And I have a feeling that's going to return here real soon. And I can't wait until the fireworks start on the debate stage with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. That is going to be very interesting. The presidency will be won or lost on the debate stage this time around, no question about it. It was Romney lost. Even though Romney did well in the debates, Romney lost the second debate, did incredibly well the first one, lost the second one, lost the presidency. And I have a feeling that the one-on-one showdown between Trump and Hillary will determine this race. If he can make her look like a buffoon, he'll win. If she makes him look, I don't know what to say, she'll win. So that's where we are. But now, this is something here that's happening on college campuses that seldom come to our attention. But I'm glad this did. It should be a sobering moment. I hope that it's a sobering moment. But we're so uninformed about these types of moments and these types of actions that they continue to go unabated because I don't think there is any knowledge of this happening. This is not unusual, what I'm about to tell you. A former Stanford University star swimmer was convicted earlier this month for sexual assault on an unconscious woman. She was unconscious. He was sentenced to 6 months, which there is a public outrage about the sentencing. But he will most likely only spend 3 months in jail. He was discovered by two passerbys on bicycles who realized that the woman was not moving. And so they stopped this assault. The defense for this kid was, and I think he's 21, 22 years old. The defense for this kid was that it was a part of the culture on the Stanford University campus. It was a part of the culture. This was his explanation to the judge that this is what we do. This is what's expected. And any woman, and I do send a warning. You warn your daughters before you send them off to the universities. I know it's the summer now and all of that. But a lot of your children will be going off to the universities and colleges around this country. And you must be aware that there is a culture of degradation that exists now in this country, emanating from college campuses, that is a part of the collegiate culture. It has been for years. Oh yeah, it has been for years. I mean, this type thing even back when I was, in and out of college. This was going on then. It's been there. But now it's just blatant, and you will offer as a defense in a courtroom that this is why I did this, and beside that I was drunk. And evidently the judge goes along with this type of thinking because he gives him a pass for being impaired, so he could not have been aware of what he was doing. She was unconscious. He was aware of that. 6 months. Good behavior, 3 months. The judge is under fire because now, and he's newly reelected, now there's just an outcry for recall. And you know what? He should be. This is an outrage. But now, couple that,
2 minutes.
and we'll talk about this when I return. Couple that, and I want to bring Steve Curtis in on this conversation, should we get him on the phone. But couple that now with the rise of the LGBT community wanting to be able to send a 16, 15, 16-year-old boy, hormones raging, scheming on how he can have any type of contact with women. You give him now carte blanche because he says he's identifying as a woman that day. You give him carte blanche to go into the women's restroom.
1 minute.
We have lost our minds. We have lost our minds. I'm CL. I'll be back here in just a few minutes. And coming up in the show will be radio host in his own right there in Denver, Colorado. That is Steve Curtis. I want to thank Grub Burger, Air Innovations, Rimmer Electric, Good Life Health Food and Deli, Mercatech Red Wing Shoes for sponsoring this segment of the C.L. Bryant Show. Don't you go anywhere. CL, back with you on this Thursday evening. And I want to say thank all of you throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, for joining me here tonight, particularly those of you throughout the Gulf Coast who are listening to me terrestrially on radio, and those of you who are listening to the live stream. Go to the App Store. Download the CL Bryant app. It's a new app. I want to ask all of you, just download the app and get a chance to listen to us. On the line with me now is someone who I have come to know over a period of time, and I'm regularly on his show. That is Wake Up with Steve Curtis there in Denver, Colorado. Steve, welcome back to the CL Bryant Show.
Well, it's good to be back, and I've got to tell you, a few minutes ago I was listening on the CL Bryant app, so I'm just here to tell you it works.
That's always good to know, Steve. That is always good to know, and thank you so much for your friendship and thank you for being on with me today, Steve. We've been talking about how crazy life can be here in America now, especially when you're talking about putting a sexually charged, hormonally charged kid in a position where he can identify, if he wants to, or at least says he identifies as a girl that day, and finds himself having access to the girls' locker room. Not good. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about this. When you hear, now, Steve, you are a white guy, for the sake of conversation.
Sure.
Okay. when you hear the words white privilege in the context of 2016,
right?
Give me an idea of how that sits with you. How does that strike you when we're talking about white privilege? I'm going somewhere with this. Just indulge me.
It lets me know that I'm talking to a racist, someone that has bought into this notion that because of a person's skin color, life has been easy for them. They've had everything kind of spoon-fed to them. And I will tell you, it also tells me as a thinking person that this person doesn't understand the struggle of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and in the early part of the 70s. I mean, you know, those years that you and I were growing up in the 60s and 70s and coming of age, and understanding the real struggle for civil rights in this country, and how we all overcame, you know, those notions that you just judge people simply by the color of their skin. I mean, even as white people eventually got around to believing that Dr. Martin Luther King was right, apparently the Democrat Party today, the progressives, don't believe that, because they're back to this old notion, this old racist notion of taking people, looking at their skin color, and then making a judgment about those same people.
Exactly right, because that's exactly what progressive liberals do. You remember when Joe Biden referred to the qualifications of Barack Obama as the first black president by saying that he's clean, neat, and intelligent. As though there's millions of black people who are clean, neat, and intelligent. No, Barack Obama, he's the only one who's like, now, and then Biden, on the other hand, goes into a 7-Eleven, or at least refers to people who of, let's say, Indian descent in 7-Eleven, and says you can't go in one without running into somebody like that. That is white privilege, in my estimation. He gets away with saying that, but you, as a conservative white person, would never get away with saying, man, if you said that on the radio, you'd be crucified.
That's the difference. I wouldn't even try. First of all, I wouldn't form that thought.
3 minutes.
It's just not, in me to do so. But the second thing is, I would hope I'd be intelligent enough not to even try to get away with that. And yet Joe Biden, I mean, one thing after another, and just got away with it. That shows me that there's a deep rooted sense of racism inside him, and yet because of his political ideology, he can get away with it. And that's America today.
And Trump simply says, "Hey, where are my African Americans?" And man, they listen. They actually wanted to lynch him. They wanted to tar and feather him for saying that. There is a double standard, Steve, that is just absolutely outrageous. Did you get a chance to see Hillary's acceptance speech the other night?
I can't watch her. Can't do it. I get about 6 seconds into that shrill, screeching voice, and I'm just like, please, God, no, take me now.
Let me tell you, man, when you get a chance, and there's nothing that I agree with as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, I certainly hope that she does not become president of the United States. When you get a chance, it was a very short message. It was probably about 8 to 10 minutes. That's all she spoke. And she was in a very low register. She was very methodical. Whoever's been coaching her has been coaching. There is a design in the way they are couching her right now. And man, you need to watch it, because the debate stage with Trump, if she comes out like that, he's going to have to adjust to how to handle her. You check it out. Now, when we come back with Steve Curtis of Wake Up with Steve in Denver, Colorado, we're going to be talking about this race, the pivotal point in this race, and we want to see just what it meant for Obama to endorse Hillary, and for Biden and Reid to have a powwow, along with Obama, with Bernie Sanders today. Has anybody seen Bernie? But anyway, we'll be back in just a few minutes with Steve Curtis, and I want to thank Brown Dodge. I want to thank Signature Cleaning, and I want to thank Bossier City Harley Davidson for sponsoring this segment of the C.L. Bryant Show. I'll be back. Don't you go anywhere with Steve Curtis. CL. Thursday, gateway to the weekend. Glad you're with me. Certainly hope that you're enjoying this hot day in the Arklatex. And on the line with me is Steve. Steve, give us your website and tell the folks how they can listen to you in the morning.
Well, the best place if you want to listen live, if well, I guess it's not that early where you're at, but I'm on from 6 to 7 in the morning here in the Denver area, so it's 7 o'clock your time. But 560 KLZ, the source, is the website, and that's where you can stream live. You can always go to SoundCloud, and all of our past programs, over 500 now, 1-hour interviews are posted on SoundCloud. So just go to SoundCloud, Wake Up with Steve Curtis, and you'll be able to listen to the archives there.
It's a great show, folks. Go and check him out. There are a lot of voices out there, and I do believe that Steve is one that you would like to wake up to with the information and the content of his show. And Steve, now when we left, this is shaping up to be one of those presidential elections where, I don't know. I don't know. Is there some type of emotional attachment to any? I know there's an emotional attachment to Trump, and there's an emotional attachment to Hillary, but we're talking about those who are actually going to put them in office, not just their cronies. Is there any type of real excitement going on in America, or is there dismay? I see more dismay. What are you seeing?
I think it is dismay. I think the excitement for Trump supporters, to include myself, is the fact that he's got a backbone, and that's something that the conservative movement has been sorely lacking for so long. We felt, back in the 90s, we knew that we had the better ideas. These days, you don't hear those ideas being articulated by Republicans in office. You just simply don't. They've given up, and we wondered if there was going to be any sort of conservative movement to even attach to going forward. Donald Trump seems to be the first one with a pulse in a long time that likes to just get in there. He gives as good as he gets, and we've not seen that in a long, long time. Reagan had a way of disarming his opponents. Trump doesn't have that. Trump just beats back at him.
Yeah.
And it's been very, very effective. And that's what we're looking for. I think as conservatives, we're looking for leadership. Trump doesn't give us the conservative leadership that Reagan or even Gingrich did during their heyday, but he gives us a chance at having a field to play on in the future. And that is the thing that the Paul Ryans and the Mitch McConnells of the world can't stand. It means that there will be a new way of doing things, and these guys clearly are not cut out for it.
They have failed miserably. And I like what you had to say there. At least Trump gives us a hope of having a playing field in the future. If we continue down the Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell alleyway, we won't, of course, control the Senate. We will not control the House, and we won't have the presidency. We won't have any of those.
No.
And that is something that is very important.
Yeah, it'll be the first Obama term again. I mean, Hillary, having seen how far a president can go, will pick right up on that. I mean, this is a shrewd, mean woman, and she is all about herself, her legacy, what she can do for herself. And we saw what she did for herself as the Secretary of State. I mean, I love Donald Trump's comment the other day that the Clinton Foundation is the Clinton family's private hedge fund, where she's just shaking down as Secretary of State foreign leaders, getting them to put money into the Clinton Foundation, which ultimately goes to her and Bill. I mean, if she can do that as Secretary of State, think what she could do as president.
Amazing that you would put it so succinctly, because she even took the China. They made her give it back, but she actually took the China from the White House. So
right.
In her way of thinking, stuff belongs to her. That's
right.
That's the progressive liberal message. But now we look at the countryside, and we look at the way that Black Lives Matter, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, and those Occupy Wall Street, all of those type things are coming about. There seem to be a create chaos type of mood in this country that mimics what Saul Alinsky said to do as far as rules for radicals? Are we looking, especially with the events that Trump has being assaulted by thugs? That's what's happening. Is there a time of chaos coming in this country?
Well, if Trump's elected, he puts an end to it. There's no question in my mind that law and order will become the issue of the day under a Donald Trump presidency, because he's been at the direct, he's been on the receiving end of all this nonsense. If Hillary wins, then there's going to be more of that. I mean, that's the go-ahead. That's the green light that tells these folks that they get away with it. And it doesn't matter if they're in this country legally or illegally. They can act illegally when they're here. That's been the message. This president has had his head, in the toilet in North Carolina. He's more concerned about what's going on in bathrooms in North Carolina than in, for example, fixing the economy of this country, which he could do a lot, for if he truly wanted to. It's not even on his agenda. And that's been the problem, is that we've seen the presidency wasted for 8 years as far as anything positive for the nation. We've seen anarchy prevailing on the streets. And I would imagine under Hillary Clinton, we'll see a lot more of both.
When we return with Steve Curtis, Wake Up with Steve, Denver, Colorado, I want to talk to you, Steve, about this ruling that came down earlier today from a federal appeals court that determined that the Second Amendment does not give people the right to carry concealed guns in public. Folks, I'm telling you, there may be a grab. There is a grab for your firearms. We're going to talk to Steve Curtis about it when we return. I'm CL. This is the CL Bryant Show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with Steve Curtis. Wake Up with Steve in the morning. They're in Denver.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
It is I, C.L. Bryant, your native son. And I want to thank all of you for staying with me for these 2 hours. So many of you call us, wishing us well and telling us how much you enjoy the show. There's not a place that I'm able to go where there's not someone who stops and gives us that type of encouragement. And I want to tell you this. I appreciate it. I really and truly do. On the line with me is someone who I have come to know and as a friend and a fellow patriot, and that's Steve Curtis. Wake Up with Steve Curtis in Denver. Go there and check it out. And I want to ask you about this, Steve. I want to ask you about the federal appeals court ruling. It was the Ninth Circuit Court that ruled the Second Amendment does not give the citizens of this country the right to carry concealed guns in public unless they can show good cause of immediate danger. Just saying that you want personal protection, that won't be good enough. What do you make of that type of ruling, Steve?
Well, I think it shows what so many in the governmental structure of this country have felt for so long. And, it also shows that those people that were in college during the drug-induced 60s and 70s are now at the helm of government, and that's the executive branch, the legislative branch, and of course the judicial branch. I know that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is very, very simple and plain spoken, and there's not a word in there about imminent danger. There's nothing in there about whether you can carry concealed or not concealed. It just says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not, not will not, but shall not be infringed. That's it. And that's what it says. It goes on to talk about a well-regulated militia, if you understand the time of the day. I mean, it's the government that we're protecting ourselves from. The imminent danger is the government today. I suppose you could be in the inner city somewhere in Chicago or New York and feel like the imminent danger was, a street gang or a thug or whatever. But for most of us, in our day-to-day lives, we understand the real threat to us as citizens is our own government. And this is exactly what the framers were talking about. They weren't talking about street gangs in the 1770s and 1780s. That wasn't what they were afraid of. I mean, there was a social conscience or social fabric back then that didn't allow for such things. So looking at what they were talking about, it had to be the government. And for the government to say that you don't have a right to do this unless this or unless, that's the infringement. That's exactly what the framers were saying they can't do. And for courts, who are supposed to be the ones, mostly in our society, that understand the Constitution, understand its meaning, its very clear meaning, to come out and say it means exactly the opposite tells you exactly why we need to maintain those rights and fight for those rights that the framers gave us.
Are we ignorant?
This was the end result.
Are we ignorant of the? Are we just that ignorant that we have yielded our abilities to be free people to appeals court, Steve? Is it you see this? The reason I ask that question is this: the Constitution is an easy read. Just about anybody can read through it in no less than 15, 20 minutes. You can read through it. But now you can go back and take about an hour or two, and you will actually understand what your rights are if you read it and then go back and try and understand it. It is not a hard read. Why then are I keep one in my, I have a saddlebag. Why then are there so many Americans who are ignorant to the rights that they can hold in their hands and know that something is amiss in these people who are handing down these rulings. Why are we so complacent?
I think maybe we've had it too easy. I think it's part of it. We most of us have never really had to fight for anything. I think the other thing is that we have elected leaders that they themselves capitulate to courts, which are tyrannical. And when you see the executive branch, when you see the legislative branch act as if the judicial branch is above those two, it's my understanding that as the Constitution was written, the judicial branch was by far the weakest because it's the one where the people don't really have a say. It's the one where the people aren't really in control as they are in the people that they elect. So the fact that these other two branches of government have gotten comfortable.
Hold that thought right there, Steve. We're going to be back to close out the show with Steve Curtis. Steve, don't forget that. Don't hold that thought. You were on a roll there, man. I'm sorry. But hold that thought. I'll be right back. I'm CL. Steve Curtis is on the line with me, and I mean he's laying it down for us who are citizens of the great nation of America. Be right back. CL back with Steve Curtis on the line, and we were asking the question, why are Americans so complacent about knowing what their rights are? And Steve, you were saying.
I was saying that we first of all have become too soft because we've never really had to fight for it, but I think we're about to get that opportunity in a much bigger way than we've known in our lifetime. The other part of my answer was that we've seen the executive branch and the legislative branch, which are the two branches of government that the people have some say in as much as we elect these people, continue to give up and cede their responsibility and their authority and power to the judicial branch, as if the legislative branch doesn't want to make the tough decisions. They throw these ideas into the courts, and the courts are just far too happy just to pick up this idea of, we can do this to the people, we can control the people this way, we can control the people that way. And it's nonsense. It's utter nonsense.
So that's how we got Roe v. Wade and all that type stuff, because we threw it to the courts. And the court said, this is the way it is.
Right. Yeah, two or three states at that time. Colorado was one. California, I believe, was another that had legalized abortion with some restrictions on it. But then the United States Supreme Court comes in and they make legislation. They're not the legislative branch. And at that moment, Congress had a responsibility and the president had a responsibility to stand up and say, no, you don't get to do that. Okay, you don't get to do that. And that ruling should have been ignored from day one, but it wasn't. It was accepted. And when we don't have people in the executive branch and people in the legislative branch and people in the judicial branch that, number one, believe that the Constitution gives them certain powers and no others, because all those other powers belong to the people. And we, the people, have ceded our power to them. Every time we go along with a lousy court decision because we don't want to go to jail, we're feeding that beast. And maybe it's time that some of us just say no and go to jail and become political prisoners until there's no place to put any of us in this country. Then maybe we have the revolution that takes our government back. But until then, I don't know what we do, because it's not like you can go to the legislative branch and get relief from the judicial branch, or expect the legislative branch to give you relief from the tyranny of the executive branch. They just don't do their job.
That's what I like about you, man. You are a patriot. You are a revolutionary for revolutionary times, because what you described in that statement, the last statement that you made, that you have to be willing to defy tyranny. That's what you have to be willing to defy, and you have to be willing to face the consequences, hoping that you will prevail against the tyranny, so that the consequences will not catch up to you for standing against that tyranny. That's what the founders were all about. They knew that if they were not successful in facing down the tyranny, they would all not only wind up in jail, they would all swing from ropes. And so, Steve, I want to commend you for your courage in saying it and standing with others around the country, with me and others around the country who have courage enough to say it, because, friend, I do believe that there's an air of revolution in this country, and it's going to take men and women of courage to do it like yourself. Listen, man, got to have you back more often than I do. I really do. Love talking to you. And listen, God bless you. God keep you. Fight the good fight. I know you will, because you are. Steve Curtis, folks. Steve Curtis. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, CL. Thanks again.
Yeah, that was really amazing, the way he put that, because that is what happened in 1776 as we approach July 4th. Somebody said, Lord Jefferson said, I'll write this thing. I want to write it. They said, okay, go for it. And let me tell you, when he declared for all of us, even down through the ages, 240 years later, when he declared for down through the ages that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He said for all of us, once and for all, that there are certain things that government should not rule in the lives of the citizens in the course of human history. And folks, let me tell you something. If this particular election does not go the way most of my listeners are hoping that it will go, it is time now for men and women of courage to stand up. It is time that you hear the words once again. We pledge our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor.
Angel flying too close.
Be back in a minute. I'm CL.
And I patched up your broken wing and hung around a while. Trying to keep your spirits up.
CL, back with you to close out this Thursday here, the gateway of the weekend. When I left you, I quoted these words that was in the hearts of those who did pledge their lives, their liberties, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Today, and you know, Steve Curtis hit this on the head. The thing that came before their pledging that was so tyrannical, and the heavy hand of tyrants and government was so hard on the necks of and the backs of the people, that they had to throw off the yoke of tyranny at all cost if they wanted to live as free men without government coming into your house, confiscating your stuff, and doing whatever they wanted to your family. They had to take that position. And when we take into account the fact that there are many of us who have never come through struggle, especially our young people. I see young black men saying how angry they are. Heck, I ought to be angry. I'm the one who drank from the colored water fountains. I have written on the back of the bus. I have done all of that. But it was much worse. It has been much worse for everyone who can look back historically on the American story, all the way back to its founding, and certainly before its founding. And when you take into account that we can lose this again and then be prey to tyrants once again, look at why people are fleeing Iraq, because of tyrants. Look at why people are fleeing Cuba, is because of tyrants. Maybe you can get an idea of what is meant when a group of people pledge to themselves that they will pledge their life, their fortunes, their sacred honor. I want to thank God for our men and women in uniform, and I thank him for bringing us to the close of this day. And until I'm able to speak to you again, I'm CL, and may God bless and keep you all.
And the bond will never be torn for those who wear the uniform. I say a prayer and make a wish. You come home to loved ones that